News, and I want to share this story with you from Natural News. It says, in a police state, citizens have no rights. They can be ordered around at the whims of this militarized police force, whose goons run around in black uniforms, terrorizing the populace. Well, welcome to Boston 2013. This police state is running wild in this city. It's reached the point where innocent families are being ordered out of their homes by screaming, aggressive, riot-head SWAT teams armed with overwhelming firepower. This is only the beginning of this police action. In a desperate manhunt for suspects involved in this Boston Marathon bombing, Boston police rolled down neighborhood streets in armored assault vehicles, aiming guns directly at citizens and completely abandoning every applicable provision of the Bill of Rights. This was all done under the justification of exigent circumstances, which means, according to the police, the government can ignore all laws and all due process and simply do whatever it wants. And let's face it, folks, that's what they did both in Boston and in Watertown. If the police want to loot your jewelry or steal your car or rape your cat, they could have gotten away with it by simply claiming exigent circumstances. Now, the media reported that all of these searches were voluntary, quote unquote, but the truth is, this is raw tyranny, and it's unfolding right here in America, where the government does whatever it wants because it has all the guns. The population is completely defenseless to say no. And with that in mind, folks, remember, the government wants everybody across the country to be completely defenseless and disarmed. They want to take guns out of our hands one way or another. Even if they cannot overturn the Constitution, they can make it so difficult to own a gun or to have ammo that we will be defenseless while they're stocking up on billions of rounds of ammo, assault weapons, assault vehicles. And what they did in Watertown was a perfect example of de facto martial law. This was martial law. Now, they called it a lockdown. This lockdown, quote unquote, was not a lockdown. This was martial law. The local police agency gave up their power, so they say, that it was a voluntary giving up of their power. Who knows if it was actually voluntary or not. But the FBI and the military moved in and shut that city down. They shut it down in search of one teenage terrorist, who, by the way, was already wounded in the neck. They not only shut the city down, ordered people into their homes, they can't come out. They filled the streets with military assault vehicles, military personnel, and federal agents. They enacted a no-fly zone over Watertown. Why do they need a no-fly zone? Because this is all part of martial law. When you enact martial law, it has to be across the board, which includes this no-fly zone. That's one of the big things that gave this whole thing away. Not only that it was federal military troops and federal authorities going house to house. They were sticking their guns in citizens' faces. They were going house to house, ordering people out of their homes with their hands over their head and searching these homes house to house. The news, being totally complicit in this, also came on the air and reported there were two people that were ignoring the order and stayed open, two businesses ignoring the order in defiance of this order. So they admitted right there that this was an ordered lockdown, quote unquote, de facto martial law. And they reported that these two businesses defiant, one a deli and one a convenience store, and they reported it as, how dare you defy this order? How dare you? So why do Bostonites welcome this police tyranny? Of course, these people who live in Watertown love to live under the police state tyranny. They hate the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and privacy. They hate private citizens owning guns. They love to see ultra-militarized pointing guns at them, at regular citizens, and ordering them out of their home. These are liberals. They vote for this stuff in Massachusetts. They think it makes them feel secure. As long as the government has all the guns, it's all okay. You see, breaking and entering, kidnapping of homeowners, the threat of the use of violence against anybody who refuses to comply, these are signs of security according to Bostonites. And here's the proof of just that whole region. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg couldn't agree more. In a frightening statement that seems yanked right out of 1984, Bloomberg now says the interpretation of the Constitution will, quote unquote, have to change to allow for more security and less privacy. These people think that we have to change the Constitution to take away our rights for the sake of security. Let me ask you. I'll ask you this question in a minute. Here's what he said. We live in a complex world where we're going to have a level of security greater than you did back in the olden days. Our laws and our interpretation of the Constitution, I think, have to change. This is a quote from Michael Bloomberg. Now, keep in mind that Bloomberg surrounds himself with armed guards when he's out in public, but he doesn't believe in your right to defend yourself with arms. This is just a small sample of the runaway hypocrisy that's being shoveled from the highest levels of government. Lockdown, in this case, my friends, it meant martial law. During this whole thing, the city of Boston was in an undeclared state of martial law. The government tried to put a nice-sounding spin on it by calling it lockdown. They urged residents to shelter in place. Why didn't they explain, however, is that anyone who refused to comply could be arrested and detained and interrogated. Local residents complied, hiding in their homes, shivering with raw fear. 400,000 plus Bostonites were scared out of their minds by one armed teenager. By one teenager? So they let the police take away their rights and turn their city into a Constitution-free zone. No Constitution here. Get inside or you're under arrest. That's martial law. Why not just bow down and lick their paramilitary boots? Why not launch a new church of government and perform worship services every Sunday? These people are beyond pathetic. They're the atheists of what America was founded on. They're literally anti what we were based on. You know, this is not surprising that they were harboring a couple of terrorists too. They were popular guys. They partied with the locals, reportedly having had a lot of local friends. That's not surprising because terrorists and socialists go hand in hand. They agree on almost everything. Freedom is bad. Killing people is good. The rules and laws don't matter. Both terrorists and socialists agree. Carrying out their agenda is far more important than abiding by any rules or laws or any rights of the citizens. So I'm actually not surprised to see that these brothers were recruited and trained in Boston. So what happens when these exigent circumstances goes national? There's a bigger question in all of this. What happens during, say, an economic collapse or larger scale event that impacts the entire nation? Does the federal government just declare exigent circumstances or nationwide bias, then start yanking families out of their homes anywhere and whenever they want? That's what they did. You know, in what they did, exigent circumstances means supposedly to magically nullify all laws and rules and due process and the rights of private citizens. The Constitution does not become null and void solely because a bunch of armed goons are chasing down an armed teenager. The Fourth Amendment is not nullified just because a bunch of people... Look, the government cannot pick and choose when the Constitution applies. Yet each passing day, there's spineless people who roll over and let the police state bully them around at gunpoint. And our freedoms erode just a little bit more. That's exactly what people like Bloomberg, Biden, and Obama really want. That's why the more bombings that occur, the more government grabs and turns citizens into slaves. What they did in Watertown and in Boston was outrageous. Now, you know, let me tell you another story that the mainstream media is not going to tell you. Did you know that these jihadist bombers and their families were on welfare? They were receiving welfare benefits. They probably thought that this money was due to them because these guys were Muslims, not radical Muslims. Now, why do I say they were not radical Muslims? Because Islam is radical. Islam teaches that all Muslims must do this. Quran chapter 9 verse 29. The infidels should pay the Muslims, as per this verse of the Quran. Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor hold the forbidden which had been forbidden by Allah and His Messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth, even if they are the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. These people think that this money is owed to them, and that anybody who's an infidel, who's not a good practicing Muslim, owes them money. So when they go and get these welfare benefits and food stamps and everything that goes with that, they have no problem with that. They think that's what's due to them. Now, it's like I said in our last program. All Muslims are taught to listen to the trees and the rocks, because the trees and the rocks are going to say there's a Jew behind me or there's an infidel behind me. Come and kill him. This is a lifestyle taught for every believer. You see, it's not fundamental. Now, true, not all Muslims are terrorists, but not all Muslims are good practicing Muslims. If they're good practicing Muslims, then they're abiding by this. Their job is to slice the neck of the unbeliever. We recently saw that a martyrdom suicide bomber who lived off Swedish student aid, and a British jihadist who said the normal situation is to take money from the coffer. You work, give us the money. Allah Akbar. They think this money is owed to them because this is the jizya. A jizya is where a Muslim says, yeah, we let other faiths live among us, but if you are of another faith, you have to pay the jizya. Jizya means that you pay for protection. As long as you pay the jizya, they promise not to kill you. If you stop paying the jizya, then you're murdered, your business is destroyed, your family is killed. What do we call that here in America? These guys got welfare benefits that they figured was owed to them. They were living on taxpayer state welfare benefits, even as he was diving deep into the world of this anti-American Islamism. State officials confirmed last night. I'm telling you. Why isn't the media reporting that? Why isn't somebody out coming out and saying something like that? Well, they'll probably